Yep.
There we are. We are live. Welcome back to Celtic State of Mind. Celtic have gone through on penalties. I think the only word I can use to describe that, Anthony, is rope-a-dope. If you bear with us, guys, there are some pretty horrendous scenes that we're seeing at the end of the game. We're keeping an eye on those, and we'll obviously discuss those as well. What we have seen is pitch invasion. I think there were Celtic fans on the pitch, but then they were what looked like very aggressive behaviour from a group of blue-masked Rangers fans, possibly Union Bears, going on and challenging the Celtic fans. I think it was an attempted assault of a Celtic player as well. That's just based on what we've seen, so we should say that that's speculative at this point, or alleged at this point. Looks like things are calming down. It looks like we're starting to see they've got cordon in place. Celtic fans look safe. Again, but that was quite a frightening way to end what was what I guess you'd have to say, Anthony, was a bit of a blood and thunder derby game. I don't think it was blessed with an overabundance of skill. I think it's probably fair to say that we were under siege for large parts of that match, but ultimately held our nerve in the penalty shootout. And I think for me, man of the match. Sinisalo, Trusty, I mean, take your pick. That defensive line was heroic in the extreme in that match today. I mean, break it down for me. How did we win that? Don't say penalties.
Chris, I mean, it was pulsating. I mean, again, I said at halftime, saying the quality wasn't there, but where I'd say the quality was in our defensive performance, because we managed to keep a clean sheet for 120 minutes at Ibrox. We forced it to a penalty shootout, and we executed really, really well. That's probably the best penalty I've ever seen Rio Hatate ever hit.
Perfection,
But we can't. I think you hit the nail on the head. Sinisalo, Trusty, Dane Murray was good when he came on. I thought Liam Scales was solid. Yeah, Araujo. They all Arthur before him. Yeah, the back line played extremely well, and to survive, that I felt like the second half went quite quickly, and then the first period of extra time, I felt Rangers came right back into it again. And I think they had about 2 or 3. Chimiti had a couple of really good chances to win it for them, but thankfully he had the wrong boots on his feet today. And but apart from that, we defended with our lives. I thought Sinisalo was excellent. He came for everything. A couple of times, the one in the second half where Arthur misjudges it, and he just intercepted and put in an amazing tackle, not to give away a free kick and a red card. Absolutely immense. And he was very close to saving the penalty at the end there as well. He dived over one, and he got the direction on the other one. And
it was very, very unlucky, actually. It was.
He had all the psychology down as well. He was moving. He was trying to put them off. Like he was doing everything he could. To come away with the victory, after 120 minutes of the penalty shootout, absolutely fantastic. The scenes after the match, from what I can see, absolutely disgraceful from Rangers fans. I mean, what are they looking to do there? Try running towards Celtic players that are still in the park, and it's just it's loser behaviour. And I think somebody said in the comments they should be used to it by now, because we generally come out on top in these fixtures. Martin O'Neill did it to them in the semi-final of the League Cup. Mm-hmm. And I probably should have tipped extra time, because that's what happened the last time I did this coverage for a Celtic Rangers game for a cup match.
That's noted for the future.
The 3-2 was ambitious in the end, but the extra time was spot on. But we can break it down. But defensively, absolutely sound. Yep. Midfield, I felt got a little bit together once Oxlade-Chamberlain came on. I felt like when he did try and get on the ball, he tried his best to try and find someone.
Yep.
Our forward line was probably where it was lacking, but then you argue there was probably not a lot of service getting up there either. Maeda ran his socks off. He'd run his race, and I can understand him coming off. Yang and Tinekti, I have to say, Tinekti came off first, and obviously Yang came off later. You could have flipped a coin either way there, but Yang defensively probably gives you a little bit more. And probably, I don't want to be too down because we've won this, but Chavanchara, the ball did not stick to him once. Like,
no,
we must have pumped that ball up to about 20 times, and it came back 19 to 20 times, I think, which is unfortunate. But but ultimately, you know, we got the result we're after, and still scenes going on here. We're sort of watching it as we're sort of live. But
and you know, I mean, it seems a long time ago. Oh, just looking at poor Rangers fan sitting there all alone. He doesn't look as though he's going anywhere anytime soon. But we spoke. I mean, it seems a very long time ago, but we spoke about what Martin O'Neill instills in this team, and we know the quality is not there. I think today was, you know, clear evidence of that. You know, we struggled on the creative side. We weren't really on the front foot for much of the 120-minute match at all. But there's something about this team. There's a mentality and a desire to win. And look, we had to ride the storm today, but I think, you know, if you're looking at the really positive elements, I think that was as composed and assured a backline performance as I've seen, and I think the goalkeeper plays a huge part in that. For me, it was a coming of age performance from Sinisalo. It wasn't just the fact that he was, that he, you know, made saves. It was the command of the area. I thought his quick reactions to come out and win the ball, wasn't afraid to come out and punch at times. You know, his decision making for me was spot on. Didn't see any panic from him in terms of, you know, having the ball at his feet. I thought his distribution was largely pretty good, even when put under a bit of pressure. And I think, you know, when you've got a performance like that from the man between the sticks, it inspires the players in front of them because they know that there's another line of defence there. I thought Austin Trusty, that was almost a European type performance from Trusty. He won everything. He had everything in his game today. The dark arts, he was breaking up play at the right times. I thought it was outstanding. I thought Scales did a reasonably good job on that left-hand side. I think the decision he put him there made sense in terms of physicality. I think that what you sacrifice is he's not the quickest at moving the ball forward, and I think that contributed to the fact we just couldn't get the ball forward. But I think defensively, I thought he'd done a really good job. Arthur and Murray, I mean, two young players who've, you know, been under scrutiny for different reasons. I thought they did exceptionally well. I thought Murray was dead on his feet, but what a warrior! He just kept going at the end there, and he's getting better every time I see him, which is a positive. So you know, he looks like he could have a good future. And Araujo, I mean, if we don't sign Araujo in the summer or make a damned good attempt to sign Araujo, I think there's no hope for our recruitment process going forward, because he is exactly the type of player that we need. I thought he was excellent today. I think you need that fight and that fire and grit that he brings. You know, I like the fact that he's in Raskin's face when he needs to be, even though the referee's there, he's still, you know, he's determined to get his point across. And, you know, I think if he keeps his discipline, you know, I think he could be a real good asset for this team. There's another player I want to mention, and Neil Lennon on commentary, on Premier Sports Commentary, was full of praise for him. I thought it was one of those games where we didn't see the usual performance from Rio Hatate, but what we saw was a player who died for the cause a little bit. He was just, you know, he found himself in good positions defensively. I think the work rate was there, the ethic was there. There was a little bit of aggression. Didn't always come off for him. And again, I think the offensive side of the game wasn't necessarily there, but I thought he had a really effective game, really kind of quietly effective game, just influenced it in the ways where we needed, and to take the penalty again, I mean, outstanding, you know, so showing good mentality. But yeah, I mean, what stood out for you, Anthony, in terms of the 120 minutes? If Martin O'Neill was talking to that team at the moment, you'd say, okay, look, we didn't create, we weren't, you know, on the front foot, we had to soak up the pressure, but there's got to be a lot of positives that he can take forward from that.
Well, look, I mean, ultimately, it's a cup tie. And a cup tie is all we're getting through in the next round, and we've achieved that objective, hooker by crook. You know, before we even start the game, our two best players aren't playing in Callum McGregor and Kieran Tierney, so that cannot be underestimated. So I was going to make a point before the game talking about previous Celtic squads, and you say who out of the current squad on current form would make a team of the last decade. And I would argue the only two players at the moment would be Cal McGregor and Kieran Tierney, and they're both unavailable, right?
They're both unavailable,
so your back's to the wall. you were absolutely stunned a week ago for 45, 50 minutes against a Rangers side that were quite rampant. We managed to avoid that pretty much in the first half. Yes, it took us probably about 25, 30 minutes to get into the game, but we also weren't 2-0 down. We were defending a lot better. So you could say consistently, obviously, to get to nothing each after 120 minutes, our defensive performance was absolutely sound for the whole match, which is probably the first time in a long time you could say that. And I totally agree with you, Chris. Sinisalo sets the tone there. And obviously, there's a lot of talk before the game about whether Austin Trusty should come back into the team or whether we should sort of play with Stales and Arthur or Stales and Murray. But his inclusion, yeah, and I think the other thing here we can't underestimate is Austin Trusty playing on the left side of a centre-half pairing as well. So, a little bit more comfortable in his natural position. And he was immense. I mean, the number of times that he bailed out his defensive partner and put in some really, really solid blocks and headers.
That double block in that second half was immense. Yeah.
So definitely my man of the match. I mean, I'm not sure who Premier Sports have given it to, but for me, and on top of all that, to then step up and hit a penalty, and there's not many centre halves that do that, and left footers always give me the heebie-jeebies when you're taking a penalty, but he absolutely sent Butland the wrong way. It was a perfect penalty, and I'm like, I'll tell you what, I didn't have that in my on my bingo list, but anyway, so that was great. So that just sort of set our stall out then between him and Sinisalo, and then the rest of the defence sort of built up from there. Obviously, there's a lot of criticism still was being selected at left back, but you could see that I think Martin O'Neill knew it was going to be a bit of a back to the wall job. So he went more defensive minded rather than Sriracha, who's probably a little bit more, aggressive going forward and maybe leave a few gaps at the back. So I think you've got to say that the tactics were spot on in that regard. It's just obviously as you move further forward in the park is where it sort of gets a bit sort of a little bit harder to sort of give praise. I would say Maeda, like I said, he ran his socks off. He gave you the press. He put Butland under pressure. He sort of gave you some sort of an out ball when he was playing up front.
As well, actually, it was the end of some rough treatment.
He did, and I mean, and he's unlucky with his finish. I mean, obviously, there's a lot. I've seen a lot of commentary about how can you know if that was offside. I mean, I'm not going to sort of debate that, but he didn't know that when he was going for it, and he finished well for the chance. So I mean, that you've got to say that's probably our 1 moment of brilliance, because I can't really recall too many chances we had in the either in the second half or in extra time. It was just a lot of gumption and a lot of battling and a lot of hard work. And I thought when Paulo Bernardo came on, he gave us extra legs. And he was probably almost came the closest to Storm when he sort of
broke through. He was unlucky, what's the chance himself as well? I haven't seen that for a while.
Joe Mabuka, I don't like to write players off, but I'm really having a hard time. How he made the matchday squad in the first place, because I thought Adamu showed more than he has, but he just looks so awkward. Either just running, a couple of his clearances were just really, really uncultured.
Very erratic.
I think somebody said erratic in commentary in this, and Neil went, "Oh, that's being generous." I have to agree, but like I said, I don't want to dwell too much on the negatives there, because we got the result we're after, and we've just landed another psychological blow on Rangers on their home patch. After you'd feel that they probably had the better chances to win it.
Yeah, as I say, the best way I could describe it is a rope-a-dope, because I felt as though we were on the ropes for large parts of that game, but we came back to win it, so reference there for any boxing fans. But I want to get some reaction, and unfortunately there's been so many comments that don't have the initial reactions, and most of them just say yes when that went in. Some of the reactions were absolutely tremendous, but Martin Devine comes in to say, God bless the Celtic. Stephen B's 9619 comes in to say, if they want 10 million for Araujo, pay it. I would 100% agree with that. Jean-Paul II comes in to say Sinisalo man of the match. A lot of love for Sinisalo in the comments at the moment. Lupe comes in to say, love to see Rio winding them up after the penalty too. I think that was one of the best Rio Hatate performances we've seen in quite some time. So really, really chuffed to see that, and hopefully he takes confidence in that, and he builds on that. McLaughlin Peakins, as I say, 4 away games in a row, lost none. Yeah, I mean, listen, you have to absolutely recognise that. For Celtic, Sean, I think I like this. It's shown some Scales some love as well. Scales was outstanding, as were the rest of the defensive unit. I think collectively, I thought the defence were excellent, and I think we have to acknowledge the fact that Liam Scales, it's difficult to play that left back position. I know he's done it before, but the way we play, we're relying on the left back and the right back to get the ball forward quickly, and I don't think that's necessarily his strength. But he went in there and he did the job, and he absolutely deserves the credit along with the rest of the defence. Looks like things have thankfully calmed down at Ibrox. Looks now like the Celtic fans are in good voice and in good fettle. So what I would say, which is really important, is really hope everybody gets home safely, and know that there are people who really take a hit when the team loses on both sides. It's a game of football, guys. Just remember, when the game's done and you're out of the stadium, get home safe, please. Nobody should ever go to a football match and not come back in one piece. So please do that. Paul Maguire comes in to say, loving this. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not sure. I would say I was loving the match while it was going on, if I'm honest, Anthony. I think if anyone's wondering whether me and Anthony get paid for this, we don't. I think after that game we might start asking for a wage, because that was stressful. That was stressful. I mean, look, we're through in the competition. We're still very much in the title race at the moment. I mean, I think at certain points you look at the quality that was on display from both teams today, which wasn't great. You sort of start to understand how Hearts have managed to amass the lead that they have in the league, because we really are not playing at the standard that we've become used to. I think Rangers, maybe to their credit, are moving in the right direction. They're certainly showing a lot of fight and determination, but I think they are suffering from the same issue, which is the quality. And I think you'd have to be a particularly dishonest person to say, look, they probably had the better of that game in open play today. But ultimately, as we found to our detriment, you've got to put the ball in the net. You've got to take your chances. You've got to put the ball in the net. And I think our resilience today, defensive resilience, the heart, I think that was the big difference today, because when it came down to it, our guys were putting the body on the line. They were, I say not just Maeda, a few of the guys took a few hard hits today. I don't think we necessarily always got the best of the refereeing decisions today as well, but we're not dwelling on that. But going forward, as we go into this next this next final stage of the season, Anthony, what can we take from this performance? What do we have to do? I mean, I think for me, there's not a lot you need to do to the back line at the moment, but it's the players in front of them where we need to look at the formula.
Yeah, I think the fact that we got a clean sheet. I mean, I think you can definitely, the defence can sort of pat themselves on the back and say that they've had a good day at the office. And I think if we can start getting back to keeping clean sheets in the league, that that in itself makes the job of winning a football match a hell of a lot easier. When you're letting in 1 or 2 goals and then you're then having to score 3 to win a match, that's incredibly difficult for us at the moment.
Yeah.
So, that's definitely something we can take away from it. Rangers had a chance here to, go into another cup semi-final and win a bit of silverware. They've bottled it to a certain extent. I'm not going to lie. They had the better chances.
Yep.
They should have won the match in normal time, but they didn't. And when was the last time you saw James Tavernier miss a penalty? I mean,
yeah.
I can't remember. I can't recall that. I mean, his set piece deliveries were excellent. Obviously they had the goal chalked off. I think it was an extra time. Yeah, it was first half of extra time. Obviously handball clearly once you saw the replay, but the delivery itself was excellent, sort of thing. So for him to miss, that sort of set the tone. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain slots his penalty away with aplomb. And you're 1-0 up in a penalty shootout, shooting at their end. So all of a sudden, the support's quiet, and we just carried on from there. So, it's interesting, but it's sort of like it was definitely advantage Rangers in the sense that they're playing it on their home ground. We had significant players out. they've effectively got their full team to pick from. So I don't think they've got any injuries really at the moment. But to look at their squad, like they're probably their best players, Mikey Moore, who's an 18-year-old low knee.
Yeah, that's right.
And they don't have any ability to bring him back on, to bring him back or buy him. So they've still got their issues. Whereas you look at our squad, and I'm missing Carter Vickers and AJ and Jota, and you put them back in that team with AKT and this is a totally different team, to a degree. But our recruitment's still not been good enough. But I'm not going to do on that tonight, because we've gotten through in a cup tie where the penalty shootouts just give me the fear. But we've done it, and we've made them look foolish on and off the park, because their fans have acted like absolute balloons again.
Yes, indeed, and I do want to touch on that a little bit, because there is a responsibility as a supporter of any club to try and conduct yourself, and we understand frustration. We've seen frustration with our own board and personnel this season. We're not exactly in the happiest of places as Celtic fans, although tonight I think we'll be in good fettle. But what you really don't want to see is supporters coming on with the intent to cause trouble. Now, for me, if you've got a group of people all wearing identical face covering masks running onto a park, well, there's still official personnel on there, i.e. players, the manager, there's stewards, there's ball boys, you're not coming on there to go and pat your team in the back and say, don't worry about it, lads. You're coming on there to actually cause a bit of damage. And as we saw from at least one individual, I think it was possibly Thomas French-Vara was the target, and had to be wrestled to the ground. And, that's not something we want to see on a football stadium.
He's obviously no too bright pitching on the 6'4" centre forwards. I don't really think that'd be the best target. But anyway,
absolutely not to be stereotypical about it, but that's not a surprise. But look, I saw that we had fans on the park. I'm not really a fan of it, because I think it does create a safety issue, and we're under enough scrutiny as it is. But the fact is, we've just won a game that I'm not sure many of us believed we were going to win it, for large parts of that match. So I think you can allow for elements of that, but what you don't expect to see is is fans or personnel being attacked. So I hope the way it's framed after this will be fairly and we'll be done contextually. But I wouldn't hold my hope out, and we'll see what action comes out of that. And Paul John and the guys will discuss that throughout the week. But as I say, paramount importance. I hope everybody gets away from the stadium safely. I hope wherever anyone's watching the game, including the guys who are at Barazat Design with Paul John at the fan zone. I mean, I can only imagine what the atmosphere is like there. Please make sure you get home safely, and please respect each and every every one of your fellow supporters. We'll get a few more of the comments in, because I think there's a few good ones going in. Ian Roy comes in to say Invasion of the Smurfs. Yeah, I don't think they realise just how similar they look to the Smurfs with the face coverings on. But yes, absolutely. This is my concern. Michael Ross comes in to say BBC blaming our fans, and this is the worry, is that it will be used as a stick to beat our supporters. River Steve Free comes in and says, "Come on, DD, talk about all the good things rather than a few of the other supporters." Like we've got to talk about all the talking points. It was a big flashpoint at the end of the game, but we won't labour the point. River Steve Free, you're right. That is a time to be absolutely positive. IG Alfar 108. Rangers FC season is officially out. I mean, it could be that this sort of result. I think when you've seen that effort from both teams today, and it was a high intensity, blood and guts, 1/3, kind of an old fashioned match, right, Anthony? It was one of those ones that you'd almost expect to see years gone by, where it was just two teams going at each other, not a lot of skill, but plenty of aggression.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact that the Celtic fans were in good voice as well, it sort of made it feel a bit like back in the day when, that was how it used to be. So for me, you're sort of sitting there and you can hear the Celtic fans chanting Martin O'Neill, and then, the Rangers fans have their wee bit, and then a bit backwards and forwards. And I thought the fans today were absolutely excellent, because for long periods we were absolutely backs to the wall. And I'm sure. I mean, obviously we've got I've got it muted, so I'm not privy to what all the post-match interviews are saying. But if they're not at least acknowledging the voice of the fans, it's they've done a tremendous job, and they're to be commended. And I think this two-siding it and saying, Celtic fans around the pitch. Celtic fans around the pitch to celebrate with their team, whereas it would appear that Rangers fans ran out of the park to start a fight. Like two totally different things, two totally different intents. The Celtic fans didn't have stupid balaclavas over their heads or little gimp masks. But anyway, not to sort of digress anymore on that. But so the fans, excellent. Like I said, it's just Martin O'Neill. You sort of take your hat off. Like, he's found a way in adversity, and he's maybe we never count your chickens because we still have a semi-final to play at Hampden, but it would just be fantastic if we could get to a Hampden final for him, and that could be send off, and you can send him off into the sunset with a Scottish Cup. But obviously a lot of work still to be done in that regard. Falkirk and Dunfermline are two of the potential teams we could draw
against Lenny. Is that written in the stars against Lenny?
Master and apprentice. It's possible. There's a 1 in 3 chance it could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to bring in a few more comments before we finish up. And it's very late for Anthony, so big shout out to yourself, Anthony, for sticking with us throughout that. It's very much appreciated. But Jerry Gallagher comes in to say, who won? I'll take a look at our faces, Jerry, and I'll give you a guess there. But I know that comment was surely tongue in cheek. And Stephen Hutchin comes in to say, Martin O'Neill just said the support kept us going, and I think that's really good that he's acknowledging that. And again, Anthony, it's a reason why we need to end this conflict between the club and the supporters, right? I know there's so many different opinions. I know there's a lot of divisive opinions. I think, and I listened to Jim Orr on Friday talking on the bulletin, and I think, for the good of the club, just set out some amnesty. Just draw a line under it for the moment. Regroup in maybe the summer and say, look, we're going to have rules of engagement going forward. We need to work together to do this. But see, from now until the end of the season, that support is helping to drag us to results that we might not otherwise get. So get them in, get them united, get the atmosphere back to our own stadium, akin to what we provided here today, and just get us to the end of the season. Then we can start to think about, okay, what's the best and most productive way forward. But we've got too much at stake now at the moment. We're in 2 competitions, and we need to do what we can here. So
we're going to make Celtic Park a fortress again, and that starts with a vocal support. And at the moment, we are effectively playing with one hand tied behind our back because our most vocal set of supporters aren't allowed in the stadium. So it's completely within the board's ability to fix this. Yes. Again, this is along with the recruitment piece. This is the other bit. It's like, fix it. We've got a Motherwell game in a week's time. That's critical. They've shown they've dropped points to Dundee last night. So I mean, they've shown that they are vulnerable. We can get a result there as well, and we're going to need to further our case in the league. And it would help if we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. So over to the Celtic board to hopefully sort something out this week. And like I say, just sort of, not like bygones be bygones, but just, set some criteria around it and just be clear about it. Because at the moment, it's just very much, it's been dragging on for too long, and it's just poisoning the whole sort of the atmosphere at Celtic Park. And we need that because, Kilmarnock away was immense. And Aberdeen, the away game, that was the immense support there as well. It was immense support today. So, we can do it. We need to be doing it at Celtic Park as well.
100%, absolutely. So lots to look forward to, lots to play for. And, a great point you've made, Anthony, is we've got players to come back as well. We are not at our full strength in any way, shape or form. We also played a midweek game. 2 players injured off the back of that, 2 very important players. And yet we've shown the guts and determination to win today. And really, really delighted that we're, as I say, sometimes you don't look forward to these shows. You don't look forward to seeing the reaction. I'm loving the happiness and the reactions that we're seeing in the comments, and really appreciate we're over 3,500 strong, which is great. And it's never easy to watch a penalty shootout. We've come off we've come out the right side of this one. So thank you very much, everybody that stuck with us. Thank you very much, Anthony. It's been a pleasure being on here for the first time for the 2 of us. So look forward to doing that again. And thank you everyone for supporting A Celtic State of Mind. Enjoy what's left of the weekend. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.